The first thing you'd notice isn't the moon, it's the tide eating your porch. At this distance, roughly the altitude where satellites currently orbit, the moon wouldn't look like a disk in the sky. It would look like a wall, a pale, cratered wall taking up nearly half the view, close enough that you could trace individual mountain ranges with your eyes, no telescope needed. People would step outside, look up, and just stop walking, phones out, necks craned. For about 4 minutes, the entire planet would have the same reaction. This is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Then, the water would arrive. Tidal force depends on distance in a brutal way. Cut the distance dramatically, and the pull doesn't just increase a little, it increases by a huge multiple. The gentle ocean tides everyone grew up with, the kind that creep up the sand over a few hours, would become something closer to a wall of water moving with real force. Twice a day, everywhere there's an ocean. Coastal cities wouldn't flood. Coastal cities get scoured. So the first break isn't civilization, it's the coastline itself. Every beach house, every harbor, every airport built near sea level, gone within the first cycle, not from a single event, but from the realization that the tide is now a twice-daily demolition schedule. Here's the part people get wrong immediately. They assume the danger is the water. It's not, it's the land. A moon that close would also drag on the solid ground, not just the ocean. Land tides exist right now. The ground beneath your feet rises and falls by small amounts every day. You just can't feel it. At this distance, that flex would become large enough to matter. Quick deadpan, buildings designed for earthquakes are designed for sudden, brief shaking. They are not designed for the ground itself slowly breathing in and out twice a day forever. Foundations crack not from impact, but from fatigue, the same way a paperclip snaps after enough bends, not from one hard pull. This is where the hidden system gets exposed. Stability, not political stability, literal physical stability. Every structure, every road, every underground pipe was built assuming the ground stays where it is. Take that away, and the most boring infrastructure becomes the most important. Sewage lines, foundations, bridge joints. The unglamorous stuff nobody photographs becomes the thing every government scrambles to redesign first. Meanwhile, somewhere a few hundred miles inland, a farmer is having a completely different problem. Night would never get fully dark again. A moon this close, even in its dimmer phases, would flood the night sky with reflected light. Not bright like daytime, but bright enough to read by. Bright enough to mess with anything that depends on actual darkness. Crops that use night length to decide when to flower, animals that hunt, migrate, or hibernate based on darkness cues, sleep cycles, human and otherwise, built around a night that used to mean something. This is the part nobody pitches first because it's not dramatic. It's just a slightly glowing sky every night forever. But agriculture runs on timing, and timing runs on darkness. One likely effect, entire crop calendars would need re-engineering, not because the plants died, but because they got confused about what season it was. Now here's the contrarian part. The obvious assumption is that a closer moon means a more violent, more dangerous Earth, and in the short term that's true. But there's a trade-off nobody mentions. A moon that close would also stabilize Earth's axial tilt far more aggressively than the moon does now. Our current moon already prevents wild, chaotic swings in Earth's axial tilt. Without it, the seasons would be far less predictable over long timescales. A closer moon would only tighten that grip. So you'd get a world that's catastrophically unstable in the short term, coastlines gone, ground constantly flexing, ecosystems thrown off, but on a scale of thousands of years, climatically steadier than the one we have now. Easier to predict, harder to survive the transition into. Eventually, people would adapt because people always do. New cities wouldn't be built on coastlines, they'd be built on high ground, on bedrock, in places currently considered nowhere. Coastal real estate, once the most valuable land on Earth, would become the most worthless. Inland plateaus, currently ignored, would become prime property. An entire category of wealth would simply relocate, geographically, almost overnight. And night shift work, already common, would become the new normal for a different reason. Under a sky that never truly darkens, the difference between day and night would start to mean less. Schedules would loosen. Dryly, some cultures would lean into it. The cities that never really slept would just stop pretending they ever needed to. The moon would still be beautiful. That part never goes away. People would still stop and look up generations later, kids who grew up under that wall in the sky and never knew anything else. They just wouldn't build near the water anymore.